Battle of Chaeronea. On an early August morning in 338 BCE, outside the town of Chaeronea, the Battle of Chaeronea took place. Although the cities of Athens and Sparta dominated Greece politically, militarily, and economically for centuries, only one of these cities was involved in the Battle of Chaeronea, one of the most famous of all Greek battles. Athens combined forces with Thebes to meet the rising power of Macedon in a battle that would change history. The notion of arete, with its focus on power and courage, has represented the Greeks in combat since Homer's time. However, in the 4th century BCE, a new danger arose to threaten the southern city-state supremacy when Macedon, traditionally seen as a realm of barbarians, fell under the cunning leadership of Philip II, a man who would fundamentally reorganize the Macedonian army. At the Battle of Chaeronea, Alexander would demonstrate his new military strength. The Macedonian triumph would send Greece into a deep slumber, both politically and militarily, according to historian G. McLean Rogers. It would never be able to reclaim its Mediterranean dominance. Philip inherited a kingdom with a weak military. Recognizing this flaw, he transformed the country's frail army into a formidable combat force. This new army was based on the Sacred Band of Thebes, the Theban army's top combat unit, and their equally effective wedge, a notion Philip acquired when imprisoned in Thebes in 367 BCE. Philip II's new army was made up of professionals rather than citizen troops. He rebuilt the old, conventional phalanx, replacing the obsolete hoplite spear with the sarissa, an 18 to 20-foot pike, and adding the xiphos, a smaller double-edged blade. Finally, he updated the worn-out shield and helmet. It didn't take him long to demonstrate the Macedonian army's strength to the rest of Greece, fighting and defeating the Thracians to the north and demonstrating to the citizens of Athens that Philip was a genuine danger. Athens and Philip would stay in the conflict between 352 and 338 BCE. Despite an uneasy peace with Macedon, an uncomfortable peace forged after the social wars when Philip offered Athens his assistance, then gained possession of cities he desired for himself after offering them to Athens, Athens could only sit passively, fearful of the barbarians to the north. The Athenians were hesitant to battle them alone since they were unable to form any alliances and, to be honest, they lacked the financial means to do so. Furthermore, Philip's military victories earned him a place on the Amphictyonic Council, a group of Greek city-states, further insulting the Athenians. While Athens saw Philip as a threat, others saw him as someone who might bring all of Greece together. Meanwhile, Philip strengthened his grip on Greece by conquering the towns of Crenides in 356 BCE, which he called Philippi, Methone in 354 BCE, and Olynthus on the Chalcidice Peninsula in 348 BCE. When he seized grain supplies bound for Athens, he launched these savage attacks. As a result of the attacks on their food supply, Athens sought an ally, finally turning to their northern neighbors, Thebes. Although they had been adversaries for a long time, the two towns suddenly had a single foe, Philip. Thebes would fall before Athens due of their position, Athens reminded Thebes. Thebes, on the other hand, had already seen Philip's threats, and they turned eastward to the Persians, who despised the Macedonian monarch because of his position along the northwest coast of Persian-controlled Anatolia. By 339 BCE, it was clear that a last decisive war with Philip was unavoidable. Demosthenes was one enraged Athenian who fully grasped the threat to Athens and the rest of Greece. In a furious series of speeches known as the Philippics, the brilliant orator addressed this menace. He was the one who understood the need of obtaining an ally, Thebes. Demosthenes felt that the fledgling cities should put their differences aside and confront the Macedonian barbarians as a united front. Because many in the Athenian government were opposed to going to war with Philip, Demosthenes used his cunning to remind them of their triumph against the Persian Empire at the Battle of Marathon. He stated that they could easily beat the barbarian to the north. Demosthenes' requests were reluctantly granted by the Athenians. The Athenian army marched to Boeotia, where they stationed men at the most strategic mountain passes, particularly the Gravia pass north of Amphissa and Peripotamiae on the road to Thebes, in an attempt to block Macedonian access to the Gulf of Corinth, which was a source of much-needed supplies. Philip was forced to retreat due to a lack of supplies. Throughout 339 and 338 BCE, these mountain passages were guarded, and both Athens and Thebes felt safe, until many of those protecting the passes were restless, and natural hostility began to cause severe difficulties. A notion that the Macedonians were ready to depart, propagated by Philip himself, added to the discrepancy. Greek warriors at Amphissa dropped their watch after Philip withdrew his men from Cytinium. When Philip saw this, he took the chance and struck at night, killing the pass's defenders and capturing the city. He then marched west and conquered the city of Naupidus. Demosthenes courageously persuaded both Athens and Thebes to reject Philip's peace offer. It was no longer possible to avert war. The king and his infant son Alexander conquered Elatea on the Boeotian frontier, opening the way to Athens and Thebes. Outside the city of Chaeronea, Philip marched his men south to meet the enemy. The Athenians, 10,000 infantry and 600 cavalries, were on the left, allies in the middle, and the Thebans, 800 cavalries and 12,000 infantry, including the 300 members of the sacred band, on the far right. The Macedonians, with Philip on the far right, faced the Athenians, with a force of 30,000 infantry and 3,000 cavalries. Alexander, an 18-year-old member of the companion cavalry, went up against the Thebans. Plutarch would write of the youthful commander's bravery in his Life of Alexander. He is supposed to have been the first warrior who assaulted the Thebans' holy band. Philip admired him so much as a result of his courage that nothing delighted him more than hearing his followers refer to him as their general and Alexander as their king. If Philip felt this way or whether Plutarch's view or judgment is correct is uncertain. The Athenians seized the initiative and struck first, despite the fact that they were not professional warriors like their Macedonian counterparts. Philip made a dubious maneuver by pulling his soldiers behind, luring the unwary Athenians forward. Philip stormed into the heart of the Athenian city and then turned left, through the opposing line. The allies left when they saw they were about to be defeated. Alexander moved into the breach created by the charging Athenian forces on the Macedonian left. He was able to completely encircle the sacred band and crush them. The surviving Athenians, including Demosthenes, panicked and fled. When 1,000 Athenians were murdered, Philip took care of the burials and sold the rest of the captive soldiers into slaves. Following the war, Athens was compelled to form an alliance, while Thebes was forced to give up valuable agricultural areas in Boeotia. Although the Athenians fought valiantly, many historians consider the Battle of Chaeronea to be a watershed moment in history, after which the Greeks were no longer a military or political danger. Philip's military objectives had shifted away from Greece and toward Persia. Unfortunately, his tragic assassination meant that his son, Alexander, would inherit the title of Alexander the Great.